The Nore River Catchment Trust is working with landowners and farmers across the catchment to develop nature-based solutions to the pressures that our rivers face.
Cases caddisfly. See another guy here now.
That's a good indicator of water quality.
And we'll see.
Okay. And the water's a nice colour as well, Jim, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty clear.
Pretty clear, yeah.
So basically what we're trying to do, this is a biological assessment of the river. So what we do is we look at the inverts within the river and we score it then on the presence and the abundance of them. So essentially at the top of the chain you'll have stoneflies, and then coming down into your mayflies, your caseless caddisflies, and then your gastropods and your oligochaetes. As we move down through the river, this score can and often does change, and it's a good indication to us then when we can find pinch points then within the river. So yeah,
it's a great long-term indicator of water quality as well too, Jim, isn't it?
It would be too. Now, the cycle for the inverts is essentially about 9 months, but with some of the stoneflies such as the Dinocras or Perla, they can last for they grow for about 2 to 3 years roughly within the water. That essentially means then if we're finding those in the river and they're matured, different generations of them, that section of the river hasn't been significantly impacted within those 2.5 to 3 years.
So on this farm, Mark is very, very nitrates compliant. He has invested a massive amount of money in slurry infrastructure, soil water infrastructure. You can see that all his guttering and his downpipes and everything are working well. And he manages his yard extremely well. So from that then we know that his soil water is under control and his slurry is under control. But we were on a visit here in 2022 and we were looking at the yard and we're saying like everything's really well managed except the grey water. Okay, so the grey water is water that lands on a yard that hasn't any slurry or fertiliser or any contaminant on it. So over the winter period, you'd have a huge amount of grey water attenuation. And we wanted to put it somewhere without investing massive amounts of money again in concrete.
The wetland buffer is a nature-based solution, and what it is essentially, it's going back to nature and using nature to filtrate the water that's coming in from it. The alternative, as Deirdre highlighted, is basically concrete tanks and land spreading again. So we had the idea, Deirdre and I, at the start, and with the help of Phelim Harty then we were able to design this area here. This was an area of low productivity. Mark would have just grazed it. It was adjacent to the cow road. We said, look, if we were able to put in a couple of ponds to maybe filtrate the grey water that's coming down and also capture what was coming off the cow road. So essentially then with Phelim then the design was to put in a couple of chambers around. It primarily starts with a settlement chamber, 3 filtration chambers. But I suppose the key thing and the key point of all this is that the outlet of this goes across a vegetated area. It's bermed from the river. It has to flow through about, I suppose, 25-30 metres of grass, which then goes into a willowed area. So it's allowed flow overland as opposed to a point source back to the river. So essentially this is the outfall from the wetland pond, and what it is you can see the river is adjacent to us. So we have a berm running all the way down along. So the outfall comes out along this vegetated area. You can see our yellow flag along, and then it goes down into a willowed area. So the idea of the willow then is to take up the water next to this water. But essentially the water is allowed to flow along this way and slowly make its way off down towards the river.
So it's really just slowing down the flow from what's coming from above by the time it makes its way to the river.
Exactly, going back to our nature-based solutions, to help using nature to help us to filtrate that water. But the key of a wetland pond or wetland buffer, especially a wetland buffer I should say, is not to allow that to be piped directly to a water body. We need it to go naturally attenuate across and naturally have overland flow.
And the plants here are doing all that work.
Essentially,
they're slowing down the flow, creating that filtration
so
system.
You've just natural grassland, and there has been some yellow flag put in as well, and you can see the willow behind us then as well on the top of the bank for bank stability, and then you'll see the willowed area then down below us here again.
as regards the cost of it, like, compared to concrete, this is a no-brainer, you know.
And I know that for this measure that you've taken is kind of above and beyond what was required of you. So how did you, what made you think that it would be a good idea to do it?
Well, I suppose, first and foremost, this was a kind of already a wetland area to a point, you know, because it's the natural gradient of the yard. Everything came to this point, and it was, if you like, it wasn't being farmed, the ground, so it was a natural runner to develop this. That's what I felt anyway.
That it's added a bit of value to this area.
It's added value, you know, but because the water, all the water from the yard above was coming this direction, the clean grey water, I suppose, it was the natural thing to do.